So I subscribed to High Dive in January, and I saw a recent addition to the service. It was The Dragon Dentist. Being in the mood and incredibly bored, boredom will do that to you. You'll watch random things. I decided to binge both 46-minute episodes in like an afternoon. Pretty much one sitting. I went into this with pretty much no expectations and was surprised to find that Studio Kara made this anime and that Hideaki Anno executive produced these films. Even more surprised to find out it was based off an 8-minute short. But anyways, enjoy my review of this little gem called The Dragon Dentist from Studio Kara. The story takes place in Dragon Country, not to be confused with Bat Country. Nonoko is a newly appointed dentist and her mission is to protect the dragon, the guardian of the country, from tooth cavity bacteria. One day, amid increasingly fierce battles with the neighboring country, Nonoko finds on the dragon tooth an unconscious boy soldier from the enemy country. His name is Bell, and he has been resurrected from inside the tooth by the dragon, a supernatural phenomenon that legend says occurs before a major disaster. As Nonoko and Bell go through a series of fierce battles, they eventually learn to accept their fate. Dragon Dentist is a 2-episode, 46 minutes apiece, special based on the 8-minute short of the same name by Kara and Trigger, which is also based off the short 6-chapter manga of this same name as well, written by Otaru Maijo, I believe is how you say it. The special is directed by Kazuya Tsurumaki, who has worked on and directed the rebuild of Evangelion Tetralogy, and is also known for being the creator of, as soon as I said that name you knew, but FLCL. Well, obviously this anime is already stacked with talent just from the director, but Godzilla God himself, Hideaki Anno, did sound direction and executive produced this special too. The Dragon Dentist is split up into 2 parts, both 46 minutes apiece if I haven't said that a million times before already. Both parts serving as, in many ways, 2 different arcs. The first episode is the introduction to the world and its characters. This to me is probably the best part of the 2, as the second half doesn't quite reach the heights that the first part did, and is a little rushed. This is simply just because there probably wasn't enough time to build up to the other characters in the story. For example, I felt that the villains were a threat, but I never thought for a moment that they would have a chance of causing any real damage. But what I found was more frustrating is that they introduced some elements like how the dragons chose their dentist. They would basically take a bunch of people and the dragon would literally put them in their teeth and they'd show them how they would die. If they do not accept their fate, then you would die. But if you accepted your death, you would become a dragon dentist. I didn't really have a problem with any of that in particular, but it never went anywhere beyond that. It was more meant to give this false impression that Honoko would die in the film, but she never does, and her death doesn't really play a factor in this at all. I think this just came down to the series being 2 46-minute films, and there was just not enough time to introduce that aspect more. If I were to have one wish for this film, it would be to adapt it into a 13 or even 20 episode series. I think this could really easily be done with a script that they have currently. Just kind of adapt it, add some things into it. Boom! You got yourself a script! I know it's not as easy as that. But the thing I liked most about this series was the world. I really liked the idea of it being in an alternate version of World War II, with dragons carrying huge warships, and really evil people trying to poach these dragons who have huge warships on their back. I think with this idea you can have many stories beyond just dragon dentists too. There is a lot of creativity going on with this special, of course. Other than that, the pacing is really good. It's pretty much a steady paced story throughout, and while I felt there needed to be a little bit more going on with the characterizations and story development, I didn't feel that I was missing out on something incredibly huge. It did the story that it was supposed to do pretty well as it could have done with the time that it was allotted and the budget they had. If I were to be honest, I think they probably over-excelled in some of these areas that the special probably shouldn't have. For example, the magical powers of the dragon's teeth to me were introduced well enough, but the execution motion was incredible. I wouldn't say that they explained it in any special way or in some cases even at all, but with the time they had, it made sense to the viewer what exactly was going on there. Magical dragons basically have magical plaque build up, and the dentists are there to clean all of that up. And it also made me wonder that if the dragon's teeth had this much going on inside of them and just their mouth and just their teeth are magical, then what can this dragon really do? How much power does it have? Also, it was carrying a freaking spoon, for Christ's sakes. That's the coolest thing ever. Characters in The Dragon Dentist are very unique based on their setting alone. On one side, you have the Dragon Dentists, who are dentists. Pretty sure you knew that. But they specifically work on these massive creatures that make skyscrapers look like a little house of cards. They're unlike your normal character. And on the other hand, your most normal characters are probably your bad guys. They're poachers who are also fighting a war for the, quote, wrong side. At least the movie makes it seem they're on the wrong side. I'm not quite sure if their side is the bad side. Their job is to basically get dragons' teeth or their wisdom teeth and sell them. They're very bad people. But what I like most, and this is more example of world building in many ways, but that some characters seemingly have some inherent magical abilities. In the main villain's case, he has so much luck, he can never get hit by incoming gunfire. It's not really explained beyond that, but he literally stands in front of a small platoon firing at him, and he doesn't get hit at all. But overall, I like these characters a lot, and I think the only thing I hated about them, honestly, were the villains. And they just didn't really compare to the first part of the series or the Dragon Dentists in general. They were the most interesting part. I think the conflict of the poachers and all that took a little bit away because it didn't have enough time to properly develop that conflict. It just kind of arrived and it changed gears from Dragon Dentist things they were doing to now trying to save the Dragon Dentist's tooth. Studio Khara is one of those studios that are more known for Evangelion than anything else, really. And because of that, I feel that the art and animation have to be up to snuff, and it is with Dragon Dentist. The movie has this classic 90s and even at times an 80s throwback vibe to how it looks. If you're familiar with anime like Little Witch Academia and old Miyazaki films, then you will fall in love with the art of Dragon Dentist. It just has that classic look about it, which makes the movie that much more special and more important than just an interesting premise. And we'll get into CGI much more in a moment, but I want to talk about the CGI models here. And I believe they are very well done. They do lose something from their 2D counterparts, but they use them pretty well in the second part of this film quite a bit. But really, they're using these 3D models in the second part of the film in the fast-paced action moments. But even in motion, these models retain their look pretty well, and honestly, they're really not choppy in motion. As for the backgrounds, well, they're freaking incredible. At one point, the dragon flies over a real-time battle happening between two warring sides, and it's a pretty awesome thing to see. I mean, not the war, which actually, by the way, they do show off war as something that's not a fun experience too. They represent that side pretty well. But as I was saying, while this dragon is flying over the battlefield, there is just this violent battle that's happening in the background. You can't really get backgrounds as detailed as that in other anime anymore. But then again, we don't have anime that have flying dragons with warships strapped to the top of them by the director of the Evangelion tetralogy. So, going back to CGI, I think that the way it's used in terms of animation is the way most studios should strive to use it. They really shouldn't be used when you just run out of budget and you just have to make a scene with CGI. They should be used to add, in my opinion, a different feel to it, and that's, for the most part, what Dragon Dentist did. It's not the best CGI in the world, but how they used it wasn't in a way that took away from the overall enjoyment or quality of the series. It was there, and it was noticeable, but it wasn't choppy or low quality. It wasn't just thrown in there because they didn't budget well. They knew they were going to use CGI, so they made the best models possible, and they animated them the best they could have been animated. Like I said, this isn't the best CGI ever at all. Like I said, this isn't the best CGI or even the best CGI models, but this is, in my opinion, the bare minimum for CGI. If a series does CGI worse than this, then to me, not really good CGI. As for the rest of the series, I really really loved the animation for the action. It really looked great in 2D and has its own style to it, which popped out and frankly looked pretty awesome. The action was engaging and very well paced, especially the action in the first part of the film with the evil dragon plaque they fought off. I also liked the facial expressions in this series too. There were some pretty funny moe bits with Nonoko that made me pop with laughter. Overall, it's really good animation across the board. Nothing incredible in terms of innovation across these fronts, but it's animation that's up to the standard of Kara's standards, I guess. The dub is done by Sentai, as it's on High Dive, and I must say, I really loved the dub here. I didn't watch the Japanese version, but the cast for it includes Nobuhiko Okamoto, Kaori Nazuka, and the legendary Kauchi Yamadera, aka the voice actor for Spike Spiegel and Tien Shinhan in DBZ, among others. As for the dub, you have your Sentai mainstays like Xanth Hyun as Honoko, but also Xander Mobus and Jameson Price as well. The dub here is good. It's a lot better than some other Sentai dubs that used to come out way back in the day. I think this is probably one of their better ones, that's for sure. The score. Well, it's astonishing. I really enjoyed it. The score is done by Tomoshiro, and they have worked on anime like Macross and Hozuki's Cool-Headedness. This score is just honestly really done well, and I think this score really excels in the second half more so than the first half, because there are more chances for the score to explore different ideas that maybe aren't there visually. But musically, really showed the scale of certain things that are happening on screen. For example, remember that battle going on in the background? Well, the score really conveys the scale of everything going on in that incredible scene really well. As for the first part, it ain't no slouch either. We have your more standard score here, but that's not bad by any means. If there is anything you could say is perfect in both of these films, I'd probably say it's the score. There are no arguments I can have that say this score is bad in really any way. The Dragon Dentist isn't something that will tip the scale in any direction at all for anyone. It's a fun special that is largely forgettable in the grand scheme of things, but it's still a fun ride while it lasts. And it does what it needs to do with exceptional execution outside of its story problems and rather shallow character development for some of these characters. But even still, the anime is held together by every other aspect very well. The score, the dub, the art, the animation, it's what you'd expect from an executive-produced Hideaki Anno anime. The Dragon Dentist gets a 7 out of 10. Dragon Dentist, I think, gets a weaker 7 out of 10 for me, though. It's an anime that will, like I said, go largely forgotten just because of the nature of the series and who made it. But I think it for sure earned that 7 out of 10 because it's an anime that does everything well enough to be considered a good anime. That's about all it is in many ways. A good anime with art, animation, score, and what have you. It's fine, but honestly, if you guys enjoyed it, have you even heard of this before? I've not heard of the Dragon Dentist before. Vaguely remember maybe seeing some things about Dragon Dentist last year at the beginning of the year, but I don't know if I did or not, because I was just on High Dive and it's like, hey, we got a new series, it's called The Dragon Dentist. I'm like, I'm going to add that to my queue. That seems interesting. And I thought, this is going to be like a 12-episode series, and I finished it because it was 2 episodes, 46 minutes apiece. And I finished it, and I went to go to my anime list in Wikipedia, and I looked at who made it, and I'm like, no way. The guys who made the rebuild of Evangelion made this. This is Studio Kara that made this. I thought that was a crazy, mind-blowing thing, because when I was watching it, I was like, this has a little bit of a trigger vibe to it, little bit of Little Witch Academia. It has that kind of vibe, that kind of look to it, and it wasn't made by those people at all. It was made by Studio Kara, which is, if you don't know, Studio Kara is a great studio, held back by some limitations and some series they've done. I think the main thing that's really holding up Studio Kara from being a great studio is the fact they're only doing Evangelion, it seems. So that kind of sucks. But it's nice they did this. I think this is awesome. This definitely, for me, person who's only seen like the rebuild world of Evangelion from Studio Khara, this kind of made me kind of respect Studio Khara a little bit more. They took a risk with this one. This was a fun little side project for them probably, and it was good. It was a pretty good special, all things considered. In terms of specials, I haven't seen many specials in my life, in my professional anime reviewer YouTube career, but I think this one's one of the better ones for sure. One of the better specials I've seen. If you got the time, if you got High Dive, especially if you got High Dive, give this one a shot. It's good, what I'd say about it. It's your standard good anime. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like, make sure to favorite, all that great stuff. You can follow me everywhere on all those platforms you want to follow me on. Besides Facebook, I don't have one of those. Why would I have one of those? Who knows? You can put down in the comments if this anime review helped you decide if you wanted to watch this anime or not, or hey, even help you to decide if you want to subscribe to High Dive, because, you know, cute dragon dentist girls, they're bringing in all the subscriptions these days, let me tell you. Dentists are the new things. For sure. I mean, I'm an expert on dentist peoples, okay? I'm like a dentist for dentists, but yeah. Anyways, yeah, thanks for watching the video, everybody. You know what to do. I'll see you later.